Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Weekly Reads. My name is Devon. I work at the Worcester Public Library, and of course, my co-host Joy is here with me. Hi, Joy.
Hi, Devin. How are you? And it's so good to be here today.
It really is. I'm doing all right. I'm really excited about the lineup that we have for our patrons today. We have a great mix of books. Don't forget, everything we're talking about you can get on your phone, your device, your laptop or desktop through Libby or Overdrive. And if you're not sure how to use your library card to do that, just call the library and we'll help you out. So right now I'm going to switch screens so that you can see the lineup we have in store for you this week. Here we go. We have a good mix of fiction and nonfiction. As usual, I'm going to focus on the fiction and Joy will do the nonfiction. My first book is The Book of Unknown Americans by Cristina Enriquez. This book came out in 2015, and at that time it was a New York Times and Washington Post notable book, an NPR Great Read, and an Oprah.com Best Book of the Year. Washington Post said the book is a tribute to the love between man and wife, parent and child, outsider and newcomer, pilgrims and promised land, and I 100% agree with that description. In the book, after 15-year-old Maribel falls and gets a brain injury, her family leaves their life in Mexico to legally move to the US so that Maribel can get the rehabilitation she needs. They moved to Delaware, to an apartment building full of other Latin American immigrants, but the Riveras don't know anyone there or where they can buy food. The story is mostly told by Maribel's mother, Alma, and a boy in the apartment building named Mayor, who has a crush on Maribel. Many chapters are told by the different tenants in the building, too, as each person shares their stories and dreams. This was a book that I could not put down. It entranced me. You learn how both of Maribel's parents internalize a terrible guilt for their daughter's fall, and you see all the individual quirks of the building's residents and how they can still come together for a midwinter celebration even when the heat isn't working. The author writes beautifully, which makes the tragic events that occur all the more heart-wrenching. I don't like to give spoilers, but you might want to make sure you're sitting down as you get to the end of the book. There are some tense moments, some sad scenes, but the beautiful writing, the character development, it really makes up for it. I can't recommend this book enough. And here's Joy's title.
Devin, is the ending sad or merely surprising?
I would say both. I did not expect what happened at the end to happen, and it made me very sad, but it was still an excellent read and very well worth it.
Your recommendation means a lot to me, and I'll be sure to read it.
Excellent.
So my first choice of the day is The Soul of Care, The Moral Education of a Husband and Doctor by psychiatrist, medical anthropologist, and Harvard professor, Dr. Arthur Kleinman. For most of his professional career, Kleinman has been an outspoken critic of the US healthcare system, which, he warns, has become increasingly profit-driven, bureaucratic, and dependent on one-size-fits-all fixes that enable the harried caregiver to move from one patient to the next in 20-minute increments. Most of us, I suspect, have heard this before, and most of us, I suspect, can relate. Kleinman has long advocated for a holistic approach to caregiving, one characterized by thoughtful and perceptive listening, empathy, and immediacy, one in which the patient's individual needs are addressed, and the physician assumes once more her traditional role of healer. This goal, however, is impossible to achieve given the limitations of and demands on our current healthcare system. Kleinman's impassioned plea for putting the care, or for that matter, the soul, back into healthcare became personal when his beloved wife, Joan, was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's disease. The fact that Kleinman, as a medical professional, was familiar with the healthcare maze and comfortable speaking to his colleagues did not cushion him against a profound sense of helplessness in the face of a bleak prognosis and pervasive institutional indifference. He and Joan were grateful for every bit of kindness and sensitivity they received, he says, but there was just too little of it. The Kleinmans were fortunate in being educated, upper middle class, and articulate. They had the resources to hire a good part-time caretaker, and when the time came that Arthur could no longer care for Joan at home, it enabled the family to move her to an upscale facility. All of these are advantages, Kleinman acknowledges, that many in his situation do not share. In developing countries, he says, with their often shaky social safety nets, a strong family often makes the difference between life and death. But it is actually not so much different here, for it is often only family, augmented perhaps by a religious community or a network of good friends, that can handle the grueling work involved in caring for an incapacitated loved one. Only those who love them, or who at the very least feel obligated to see it through in sickness and in health, have the strength to endure what is often unendurable. Kleinman cared for Joan for 10 years, and he does not in any way romanticize an often hellish journey. But he does believe that caring for others is at the core of what makes us human and the societies that we create humane. The Soul of Care is not an easy read, but it is an important one. As Kleinman says, both caring and being cared for are universal human experiences, and the extent to which we succeed or fail to provide care at both the individual and social level affects us all. The colleague who recommended this book to me said that what she found most moving was Kleinman's moving portrait of his wife in her totality as a person, not just as the victim of a terrible disease. And I agree.
It seems like we both picked some serious books to start out with this week. But let's move on to something different. We've got a thriller, which was actually recommended to me by Joy. This is Bad Axe County. It's first in the Bad Axe County series by John Galligan. It came out about a year ago, last summer in 2019, and it was one of Kirkus Review's best fiction books of the year for 2019. So Bad Axe County begins when the life of a teenage Wisconsin Dairy Queen is shattered by the murder-suicide of her parents. Unable to accept the finding that her father killed her mother and then himself, Heidi almost comes apart. 15 years later, she is interim Bad Axe County Sheriff. Half the county wants her elected, but the other half wants her out of law enforcement. Despite challenges that include being the wife of a local baseball legend and mother of 3 small children, Heidi is doing well until a murder shocks her and exposes the underbelly of sex trafficking in Bad Axe. Heidi realizes that someone is planting clues, leading her to some truths that point to a game her husband pitched years ago. With a murder to solve, a girl to save, and a monster to bring to justice, Heidi comes to the cusp of finding out what happened the night her parents died. When Joy recommended this book to me, she said the main character is a kick-butt female, and that there are also strong supporting male characters with a suspenseful, fast-moving plot. Kirkus gave the book a starred review, saying that it's a darkly irresistible thriller with striking prose and engaging characters. Joy, you know this one is already on my to-read list, and I can't wait.
It should be. I'm thrilled that it's one of a series. I can hardly wait to read the next one. And I did want to point out that a pivotal scene is set in a Culver's in Wisconsin, where I have actually dined. And if you don't know what Culver's is, well, you just have to take a trip to Wisconsin.
I'll add it to my list of places to travel. And here's Joy's next book.
My next choice is Southern Lady Code by Helen Ellis. If you don't have anything nice to say something not so nice, but say it nicely. That, says author Helen Ellis, is an example of Southern lady code. Although I think it could pass for Midwestern lady code just as well. The book is composed of easy breezy, light and lovely essays by Ellis, an Alabama native transplanted to the Upper East Side of New York. And much of her writing is focused on the contrast between the world of her upbringing and that of the city where she now lives and thrives. She deals primarily with what she herself calls rich people's problems, a misplaced Burberry coat, for example, or the trauma of choosing just the right costume for a birthday party held in an upscale restaurant. Like any well-brought-up Southern, or Midwestern, I might add, girl, she places great stock in sending thank you notes for every possible occasion and judges harshly those who don't. She wows skeptical New Yorkers with her cheese logs and nutter butter snowmen, recipes included, by the way, so her guests can party like it's 1979 at holiday time. And what would a book by a Southern writer be without a ghost? Ellis swears she's actually seen one, or a wacky scenario or two. For instance, the time Ellis's father faked his own death at her 13th birthday party. Well, sorry, you'll have to actually read it to find out more. You may think that I'm being dismissive, but I'm not. Ellis has been compared to David Sedaris, and her voice is wry, warm, witty, and keenly observant. She made me laugh, and laughter, as we all know, is healing and good for the soul. Helen Ellis, bless your heart.
I've been hearing a lot about Helen Ellis lately.
She's good.
Sounds it. Next we have our coming soon title, which is Nora Roberts. She has a new book coming out this coming Tuesday, May 26th. Of course, as you can see, it's called The Hideaway. We're all very lucky because it is already available on Overdrive and Libby to place a hold on. I'm sure there's already people waiting ahead of us, but it's never too early to place a hold. So for this book, a family ranch in Big Sur country and a legacy of Hollywood royalty set the stage for Nora Roberts' emotional new suspense novel. The story includes a child star, a betrayal, and an abduction. Pop Sugar said that Hideaway is everything you want from the iconic Nora Roberts. Suspense, vengeance, and of course, romance. I already told my sister about this. She's a big Nora Roberts fan, and she is super excited. But that brings us to the end of our lineup for today. Remember that if there's a topic or a genre you want a recommendation for, just leave a comment in the notes below and Joy and I will see what we can do for you. But otherwise, I hope there's a book here that interests you, and we will see you next week for another round of weekly reads. Thanks so much for watching.
See you later, fellow readers.